I have been traveling with my dog Tinley for about 7 years, and we fly pretty often. I want to show you my ride or die carrier for her. I love this carrier so much that I actually got another carrier, same exact brand, brand new, and I will not open that carrier until this one absolutely gives out in some way because I'm worried they're going to stop making this carrier. And this is truly the best carrier that works for her. So yeah, we had a long day today. We had a long day. It was about 7 hours traveling. So I'm going to show everybody your carrier, if you don't mind. So this is her ride or die carrier. It is by Sylvton, as you can see, and I'll put some B-roll and overlays on this so you can really see what this carrier can do. But every single side opens up and expands outward like an accordion. So when you're at the gate or at the United Club, I can open up all 4 sides for her, and she is like in a little mobile home. It is so cute. When we are in the airplane seat, I can open up at least this front part, and it expands like an accordion outward, and it just gives her much more room to lay down and lay totally flat. So this has been really, really awesome. The other thing I love about this carrier is the inside, a really soft, fuzzy carpet. So it's really, really comfortable for her to lay down in here. A couple downsides, I wouldn't say downside to it, but one thing to note, and this can be the case with a lot of different types of carriers, but it zips completely flat. And they do that so you can store it easily. But what they don't think about by doing that is when you do unzip this whole thing flat, these zippers come apart. So the very first or second time I ever went through TSA with her, the TSA guy, somewhere along the lines, the 2 zippers got put at the bottom. And she got put back in the carrier, and we were walking out of TSA when the bottom completely unzipped and opened. Because if you look, the zipper goes all the way around here on the bottom, and that's so it can open flat for storage. Well, the 2 zippers met down here. And so she came in and her weight spread apart the zippers, and she literally fell out from the bottom of the carrier, which was wild. So ever since that incident, I have taken a little TSA approved lock, and I've locked together the 2 zippers that go all the way around the carrier so that never happens again. And then I always just have the key in this little pocket here. Another thing that I will point out about traveling with this carrier is I did get my own pad, and this pad is a lot more comfortable than the pad that it came with. And I prefer to leave her in the carrier while we are walking through the airport. The only time I will let her out of the carrier is once we have just gotten to the airport from the car, which is usually a 45-minute drive to the airport. And so once we get to the airport, before we check in, I take her to the baggage claim area, which you can go to before obviously walking through security. We go downstairs no matter what airport we're at. And this is LAX, this is Dulles, this is Reagan. We've flown into Tampa together, O'Hare, we've also flown to Sacramento. We did the same thing there. So the same thing, every airport you go to, you can just go downstairs to baggage claim. And there is always a green space outside of baggage claim for service animals. And in a lot of cases too, there's even a dog park. So definitely look up the airport map before you get there and see where the outdoor dog area is in front of the airport before you go through security. Because that's the only time I let her out. And then I also will let her out just for like 5 or 6 minutes at the gate before we board. But other than that, when we're walking through the airport and at all other times, I keep her in here, especially walking through the airports. A lot of airports have a rule that you are not allowed to have your dogs out of the carrier anywhere at all. I think that's a good rule because the airport floor, for one thing, is disgusting. So gross. But I'm also really worried. People are rushing through the airports. They have their roller bags. There are kids running around. It is just not safe, in my opinion, for my dog to be walking. If she was bigger, then maybe it would be safer for her if she also wasn't like slipping and sliding on the floors. And she's a very excited walker. Like she gets very excited. So it just doesn't feel safe to have her walking in the airport at all. And she loves this. She feels safe in this. So I know that she even feels much safer in here. Now, with that said, and the reason I have the shoulder pad, this does have a trolley sleeve on it. So it goes on the checked luggage really well, and it rolls really well, especially you want to have a four-wheeler checked luggage bag for this to go on top of it. You don't want to have a two-wheeler and have your dog inside because then you're tilting the thing over. You want your dog to be flat. So this definitely goes over my checked luggage once we land or when we're walking to the check-in counter. However, you are only allowed a personal item with your dog. Even though the dog carrier itself, this carrier is the dimensions of a personal item. So you would think that the airline would say, okay, well, your dog is the dimensions of a personal item, so you should be allowed a carry-on then, right? No, you're not allowed a 22-inch carry-on suitcase with your dog. You're allowed a dog and a personal item bag. So with that said, I have a rolling personal item bag because walking through the airport, I don't have a four-wheeler to put her on top of. I could have a personal item bag that is 4 wheels and has a flat top. I think it would be a little weird because it would be so low. And the way that this is, you kind of want to hold the straps to keep it up. So I think that could work, but I've never used my setup that way. I've always just put her over my shoulder like a duffel bag and then rolled my personal item behind me. My dog is 12 pounds, and there was a time where she was 13, 14. She's lost weight, but it's never been uncomfortable for me to do that. However, once I land and I get my checked bag, I do usually put her on top of the checked bag. And then I also like to open this up. There is a little hook in here that you can hook them to the bottom so that you know they're not going to jump out. Oh, where is it? Here it is. I don't use it for my dog because she's really good about staying inside. But one thing that I would note if I was going to use this hook is I would put another hook. I would attach a second hook to it because it's very, very short. And so it doesn't give them a lot of room to move around in here. And I actually think it's more of a safety hazard than something that's beneficial. So I would get another clip that clips onto this that's two-sided and then also clips onto their harness. So you have something in there, but there's just a little bit more room for them. But I've actually never had to use it because she's really good about staying in here. So once we land, I'll put her on top of the checked bag. I'll open this up. She stays inside. And then we usually roll to the outdoor area. Like I said, outside of baggage claim, there's always a grassy area. But before we get in a Lyft or an Uber or a taxi or anything like that, I put her back in her carrier and I zip it all the way back up. And I have never had a driver say, I'm not going to drive you because you have a pet, because my pet has always been confined in her carrier in the car. So no driver has ever turned us away for that. And I've taken limos and I've taken all sorts of black cars with my dog and they've never said anything. It's never been a problem. But like I said, she stays inside. I don't even open this up. I only do that if the airport is within 15 minutes of where we're going. So when we land in Nashville, it's a 15-minute ride from the airport to the flat. When we go to the Reagan Airport, if we're going to downtown Washington, D.C., that's only about a 15-minute drive from Reagan to downtown. So it depends on the trip. If it's longer than 15 minutes, then I rent a car because it's about $50 to rent a car for the day. And I just find after traveling with my dog and she's been in the carrier already on the airplane, once we land, it's really nice for both of us to rent a car, have our space. She has a car seat that folds up. I'll put a picture of it and I'll put a link in the description. And, I'll make other episodes where I talk more about the logistics of renting a car with a dog. But I have a foldable car seat for my dog that I put in just a regular suitcase. And once we land, we go to the rental car. I set up the car seat, I'll take a coat or I'll take a scarf that I was wearing and I'll put it in the car seat for her. And then we have maybe a 45-minute or an hour plus drive to wherever we're going in a rental car. And that works a lot better for her because, like I said, if we were to just get in a Lyft or an Uber, she has to stay in here, and that's just kind of icky. They do have pet Ubers that you can order, but I would imagine they might take a long time to get to the airport. And, when I land, I just don't want to deal. To be honest with you, I hardly ever take Uber when I fly because taking a rideshare from the airport is actually my personal hell. I would much rather take a taxi cab that's right there or a limo service that I know will have a fresh bottle of water and a cell phone charger if it's going to be a long distance and I'm not with my dog. But I've done it with my dog too. But like I said, if it's going to be a long distance, then I will rent a car. And it's just like $50, like I said, for the day. And then I drop off the rental car in the suburb that we drove to, wherever it is. If we're flying into LA or Chicago or whatever, Tampa, you're flying and then you're driving somewhere. I will return the car at our destination. And then I usually take a car service to the airport because the last thing I want to do before I catch a flight is return a rental car. I just don't, unless it's an afternoon flight, but I rarely take afternoon flights. So usually I drop off my rental car at my destination and then take a car with her in here to the airport. And it's a lot easier for her to be confined in here to an airport for 45 minutes. Like we do this when we fly to LAX. It's the beginning of the day, so it's not the end of the day. She hasn't already been in the carrier. And then once we get to the airport, we go for a walk around baggage claim. She goes to the dog park. Then we go through security and I let her out again at the airport in the gate. So it's really after we've landed and after we've had a full travel day that I don't want her to be in here for longer than 15 minutes. But if we're driving to an airport, she does a lot better. Like I said, it's a fresh day. No traveling has happened yet, and it works a lot better for her. She knows she has her breaks at the airport too. All of that makes up the majority of this. And then this is an addition. These clips that I've done on here have been absolute lifesavers. So I always wear the carrier this way so that the ventilated part is right in front of me. This is where her head would be. And then also right in front of me here, I have clipped this pouch. And this was on Shark Tank, actually, funny enough. And I also use this when we go to the pool or the beach. But this is an insulated, reflective cell phone pouch. And I just added this carabiner clip to one of the little tabs. But it's Velcro, so it Velcros open and shut. And then you can put your cell phone in here. And it doesn't matter how hot it is outside. It could be 115 degrees. I've been in the Nashville summer heat at the pool with my phone in here, and my phone maintains its phone temperature and therefore holds its battery. This is incredible. I've also used this in negative 20 degrees when I was in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration, and I was outside for a long period of time, and it was negative, I think, 15 wind chill. And my phone kept its battery and kept its temperature. So I love this thing, but what I love about it for travel, even though that's great, I love that I can clip it on here. And then, let me get my phone so you can see the full effect here. And then on my phone, I have this is like a keychain thing. And so you can just put this around your wrist and you know that your phone isn't going to fall down. It goes inside of the case, so you know it's not going anywhere. And I like to clip this onto my dog's carrier on the front and then put my cell phone in here like this. And then this clips, so whenever I need to grab my cell phone really quickly, I know that it's on my dog's carrier right here, right in front of me. And then I also can easily grab it because of this thing. And then I have a magnetic wallet on the back that only has my license, my driver's license on here. Because when you fly with your dog, you have to go to the counter and show them your ID. They're trying to get the kiosks to work for pet check-in, but it doesn't really work. So I've always still had to go to the counter. And the first thing they ask you is, can I see your ID? Well, there's no reason for me to mess with my whole wallet situation, when I'm flying. I don't even need to take out my wallet. I've got my Apple Watch that has Apple Pay. And so if I'm going to buy something at the airport, which I never do, but if I did, I would just use my Apple Pay from my watch. I wouldn't, or I could use my phone, but I don't need my wallet and I don't need my passport because I have TSA and Clear. So all I need is my driver's license to check in with my dog, and I just put it right on the back of my phone, so I always know where it is. So this is always clipped on the front here, and then on the back, this is something that I discovered after traveling for a while. I used to just have a water bowl right here and a food bowl, and they just sort of dangled. But I found that so much dust and debris was collecting in the bowls. It was disgusting. And I would go to pour water for my dog, and there'd be all this dust in the water bowl, and I would be like trying to get it out, and it was just such a weird thing. So this actually closes, so it keeps the dust from getting in. And it's been really nice to be able to open this up and just know that it's completely clear. And then it's two-sided, so you can have food, obviously, and you can have water. I always say to people, don't be afraid to give your dog water when you're traveling. I always give her the opportunity for water. She usually will not drink when we are en route anywhere. So that's why whenever we do travel, I go around her schedule, and I always make sure she gets her full breakfast and her full morning bowl of water before we do any traveling. If we're going to catch a 10 a.m. flight, that might mean that we're waking up at 4 a.m. That might mean she's getting breakfast at 4:30 in the morning. But I would rather she have a full stomach and full water intake, and then have her next meal however many hours later. But in the middle, I know she usually won't want to drink. And on a daily basis, she's like that too, where she has her morning water. She'll have like 2 big gulps of water between the span of like 2 or 3 hours. And then the whole afternoon, she doesn't drink. And then she's thirsty, late afternoon. So when we travel, I fit it in that way. So she gets her full morning water, and then she usually doesn't drink anyway in the afternoons, and she doesn't want to drink when we're traveling. But I always give her the option. I always put a bowl out of water once we get to the gate, because I know she has just had a potty at baggage claim, and depending how long the flight is. But I always put a little bit of water out for her there. And then once we land, I always take her to the park outside of baggage claim and give her another bowl of water there. But she always refuses it. But she might have a couple sips. So that's that bowl. And then I also want to talk about what I keep in her little pocket here. This pocket is really awesome. A lot of the carriers that I have seen do not have a pocket like this, and it's really deep. I mean, look how deep this is. It fits a lot of stuff. So in here I have her favorite travel bone. She loves this, and it's kind of special for her because it's her little treat that she only gets when we're flying. She only gets to play with this bone when we're at the gate. And so it's a really fun thing for her, I think. She gets really excited. And then I have this is like a little clutch thing. You know what I'm saying? Like for a purse. But on here, I have the lock to the TSA lock here. So once we get to our destination, if I don't have anywhere to store this, I can just unzip it, make it flat, and put it in the back of a closet or put it under the bed or whatever if I wanted to. But I always just want to make sure I have that key. And then I also have her rabies tag. They do not need a proof of rabies vaccination if you are traveling domestically. That's something they only need for international travel. But I've had 2 gate agents ask me to see her rabies vaccine. And I'll be like, you don't need that, but I have it anyway, because I just don't want to be the person who doesn't have it. So I always just keep it right here in her carrier, and then I always know where it is too, if I ever needed it for anything else. And then I also always have in here before we travel, I put in a fresh one, little makeup remover cloth. And this is a really small size of one. Like when I take off my makeup, I have a whole washcloth. This is tiny, but it's perfect for my dog's eyes because her eyes get really wet when we travel. And to be honest, these are also really nice for me, for my under eyes, because my mascara runs, obviously, when we're traveling. So this is really good for her. I always keep one in here. And then I have her collar because I don't like her to wear it when she's in the carrier. I don't want it to get caught on anything. But I want to have it when we're traveling so that when we're in the rental car or if we're at the park, she is wearing this, God forbid, just in case something were to happen. And then I also have pre-portioned food for her because a lot of times, depending on the timing of our flight, we will go to the park outside of baggage claim and I will give her a full bowl of water. And I might also give her at least half of her dinner or, a portion of her dinner. This is a full dinner size. So I just want to put something in her belly, especially if it was a travel day where she ate breakfast at like 5 a.m. and we land at 1 p.m. Even though that's not dinner time, the amount of hours it's been since she has eaten would be dinner. Typically on a daily basis, she eats breakfast around 7:30 a.m. and then she has dinner around 3:30 or 4. So you want to make sure they're not going the longer hours without eating. Also, if a dog doesn't get food, however hours, difference that they're used to, if they get really hungry, they can actually vomit and throw up because they're too hungry. Because when a dog gets hungry, their stomach produces more acid. So they might throw up bile or like a very clear liquid if they don't eat on a travel day. So it's really important to be aware of when your dog had breakfast and give a little snack if, it's been several hours. And so I'll usually split up her dinner on travel days, give her part of it at the dog park, especially if we're flying to California and we have like an hour and a half drive, to the house from LAX. LA traffic is terrible, as you know. Chicago can be the same way sometimes, or depending on where we're going in Florida. So for a trip like that, I always try to give a snack and then we'll give the rest of her dinner, obviously, later on. So that's every. Oh, there's one more thing in here. This is a double-sided clip. This is kind of like what I was referring to, what I would put in here, but what I would put in here would be much longer. I'm thinking of like car seats for dogs. They have the clips like that are longer than what the manufacturer put in. This is shorter. So this is more for when we're at the gate. And I take her out when we're at the gate to just kind of sniff and stretch her legs. I'll walk her around the terminal a little bit just to get a few steps in. But if I want to, what's the word? If I want to like connect her, not connect, tie her up to the chair at the gate and so that she can be out and sitting because they can't be out if you're at the United Club or the Delta Club. So if I'm going to do a club, I'm going to go to the club. She's going to stay in here. I'm going to open all 4 sides, give her some nice space to lay down. But if we're at the gate, I want her out. And this is a really good way to like clip her onto the seat because it's so short and not have to hold the leash the entire time that I'm sitting there. So that's also really nice for restaurants. When we go to restaurants, I can just clip her to the restaurant chair with that. So I'm actually going to keep this out because I don't want it to go bad. Put everything else back in here. But that is the whole thing with the carrier. Before we ever did our first trip, I practiced with her in the carrier for quite a while. I would take her on car rides and she would be in the passenger seat underneath the glove compartment of the car. And we would just drive around the neighborhood, with her under my feet like that. And I really think that helped her when it was finally time to get on the airplane because she was used to being under something. She was used to being in her carrier under the glove compartment with the roaring engine of a car, which is similar to the roaring engine of the plane. Obviously, a plane's engine is much more, but, it was the same sort of vibration and feeling. And so once we got on the airplane, it was kind of like, okay, I've done this before. I've been in the car in my carrier under the glove compartment by your feet like this. It's not a totally weird thing. So I think if you do have a small dog and you're looking to travel with them on a plane, practicing in a car is a really good thing that helped her. And then before our first trip, I would bring out the carrier and I would open it up and I would put treats in there and I would put her favorite blanket in there and I would put her favorite toys in there and I would wait for her to go in the carrier on her own because she was curious where it looked comfortable or her favorite blanket was there. I'd wait for her to go in alone and then I would zip it up very gingerly and I would wait maybe 2 minutes. And if she was trying to get out, I would wait for her to settle down and then I would let her out. And then I would increase the time that she was in the carrier until she was doing full-blown naps in her carrier. So she has always seen this carrier as her spot. This is her place. This is her safe spot. It's like a little mini crate, you know? And the other thing that I really like about this carrier and what really helped when I was training her to love the carrier is not only do these open like accordion style like this, but there's also, let me move this over. So yeah, not only does it open like an accordion like this, but there's another zipper here that opens up this. So if we're at the United Club and I'm eating lunch and I want to give her a little treat or I want to give her, you know, something, I can reach in and do this without having to open the top. So when she was practicing with the carrier, I would just leave it open like this on the couch and I would let her go in on her own. So that was really helpful. So that is my ride or die carrier. Like I said, I love it so much and my dog loves it so much. I bought another one brand new because I'm worried they might stop making it. And I really think that traveling, you know, as much as we have and as far as we have, and the travel days being as long as they have been, this carrier has been such a game changer. It's been such a blessing. So definitely try it out if you are going to be traveling with your dog, especially for long trips. And let me know what you think. And I will continue to make videos on traveling with my dog. I'm going to just unpack. I think I'll do a couple videos today of just unpacking from like a regular trip to show you guys what that looks like.